Hey you, welcome back. I am Nat from Nat's Numbers, also known as the Numerology Chick over on Instagram. So this video is the next in our series on the dark side or shadow side of each number in numerology. So if you have a 5 life path, 5 expression number, 5 heart's desire, or 5 personality, this video is for you. I'm going to share with you the top 3 shadow aspects that could show up if you have the 5 in your chart. And I'm going to talk about the remedies. What are the things that you can do to make sure that you don't use this superpower for destruction in your life, but you use it for fulfillment, happiness, and success. So if you're enjoying these Friday morning uploads and you want more of this content, it helps out so much when you share the love, like, subscribe, comment. You guys know the drill. Okay, so really quick, let me define what I mean by the shadow aspect, okay? So in numerology, every single number in the number sequence, you could think of it as a fundamental puzzle piece in the universe. It has a job to do. It has a result that it's trying to produce. So the shadow aspect of every number is simply when we are preventing that number from producing a result, when we are trying to produce the result in an ineffective way. You could think of it as like a misfire, okay? So the number 5. The number 5 is all about producing the result in the universe of expansion and growth, and as such, to create freedom, fun, and adventure. Now, the way that the 5 produces this result, the way that this result emerges is via change. Sit with that. I mean, we could do a whole video on that, right? But what that means is if you have a 5 in your chart, you will notice that you've always had this powerful instinct to change things, to be progressive, to be a change maker. You have this innate outside of the box state of being and way of thinking. But you might initially struggle with embracing this superpower, right? Because I mean, who wants change? You know, you literally have this spiritual DNA that's all about breaking the rules. That usually doesn't work out very well with parents, with authority figures, with institutions like schools and the like, right? So what happens is that 5s typically dip into these darker aspects to survive. So what's the first? The first dark aspect that a 5 might notice, that you might notice, is the chameleon, okay? The chameleon stage. This is basically where instead of honoring this beautiful superpower of being this progressive change maker and revolutionary, you adapt to the status quo. This is where instead of being a force of constructive change and improvement to the world and your environment, you instead have to change yourself to be safe. You have to adapt and become a chameleon and fit in. You have to try to follow the rules and engage in maintaining the status quo. And what ends up happening in this like darker phase is that you'll start to feel confined, you'll start to feel stuck, and you'll start to feel domesticated. Like instead of this wild horse, you feel absolutely confined and caged. You might actually start to think and identify with the idea that you are an overly cautious and fearful person versus an adventurer. It's not true. So why doesn't this produce the result that the 5 wants to produce? Well, it might be obvious to you, but you can't be the change maker if you are, instead of changing the outside world, you are asking yourself to adapt to the low level ways of living and thinking. Right? You cannot positively change and impact the constructs of this world if you are trying your best to adapt to them. So what happens when you are a chameleon long enough? What happens when you adapt long enough? You move into the second shadow aspect, which is escapism. And I know that there are so many 5s that relate to this. If you stay cautious long enough, if you stuff down your adventurous spirit long enough, if you are a chameleon long enough, then you usually have to engage in escapism. And this can look very different for each person, but this could be addiction to food, addiction to drugs, addiction to alcohol, addiction to sex. It could be to traveling. Like a lot of people, it's like they have to move from one city to another. They have to move from one job to another, one relationship to another. Because the idea is, if I just escape from the construct over and over again, then maybe someday I'll be free, okay? But the thing is that if you're constantly escaping by numbing yourself or by ignoring reality or trying to get away from reality, you're never going to tap into true growth, expansion, and change. You are the one that actually needs to show up to those things that matter to you, to show up to those constructs that exist in the world, whether that's like relationship, career, you name it, you're supposed to show up to them and actually be that change maker, be that person that catalyzes a new revolutionary way of being, okay? So if you escape, you're never going to get there. So what happens then, if you're a chameleon long enough and you escape long enough, then you move into the deeper and darker aspect of the 5. And 5s actually get a pretty bad rap on the number sequence because their darker side is far more visible than all the other numbers. The third and darker stage is absolute destruction. I mean, we're talking about like Jerry Springer chaos, Jerry Springer drama, okay? Lying, cheating, being deceptive, being chaotic, being just this very, very big producer of drama. The reason why this happens is the thought is, on a spiritual level, right, is that, okay, I've been a chameleon long enough, that didn't work. I've escaped long enough, that didn't work. Maybe if I destroy the constructs, then I will finally be free, right? But this doesn't work. This does not produce the result of growth and expansion. And this might blow your mind, but it definitely blows my mind. If you destroy constructs, you're never able to change them. You're never able to improve them. Actually, 5s need the 4 to be able to do their great work. 5s need the 4 to be able to be their best selves. The 5 comes after the 4. That power of sequence and numerology is profound. The 4 is about the institution. It's about following the rules, but you will never get to the 5 without that. So the point isn't to destroy things. The point is to reinvent things. So what is the remedy for these darker aspects? First of all, it is so important for 5s to validate their desires and to validate their dreams. It's very difficult to be a 5 in a world that really is about, or a society that is predominantly about following the rules, okay? So it's like career and family looks this way. This industry that you're interested in looks a certain way. 5s are notorious, by the way, for having like an issue with education, whether it's that you never went the conventional route or you did, but you never really fit in, but that's because you're supposed to change the institution, right? So it was really difficult for you to naturally embrace it. So you have to validate your own desires. You need to write them down. Your desires are going to be unconventional. They're going to be breaking the rules. They are going to be bringing a new way of doing things in, and you need to take a moment to write them down. Instead of adapting to the construct, the institution, the relationship, right? Whatever it is, you bring these new ideas, these new inventive ways of thinking to the table. Write down and validate your own desires. And then this is very, very important. You need to build the muscle of your inner adventurer. You need to take calculated risks for those desires. And for some 5s that I've worked with that have been in the shadow aspect for so long, it's terrifying at first. So it might be baby steps, but you ask yourself, if this is my dream, if this is what's on my heart, if this is how I want to change something that exists in this world, what is one small calculated risk that I can take in that direction? 5s sometimes will think that their mission or embodying this number in their chart is about just being like making rash decisions, just being bold for no reason. No, you're going to take risks that are intentional. They're risks that are for that thing that's on your heart that's so important. It's for liberating yourself and others. It's for adding more zest and pizzazz and beauty and adventure into life. Take calculated risks for that desire that seems so conventional and so outside the box and so unusual that it was put on your heart for a reason. Okay? So if you are a 5, if you have a 5 somewhere in your chart and you resonated with any of these shadow aspects, please raise your hand below and let me know. And I would love to hear from you guys. What are the things that you've found throughout your life really help you rise into the higher function of being a positive change maker, being somebody that shows up and makes things better? What are the things that have worked for you? I would love to hear it. Okay, guys, I can't wait to see you in next week's video. I don't know which number I'm going to do next, but we'll see. Okay, bye.